Wow, welcome to the Fish Nerds. This is Clay Grove, Chief Executive Fish Nerd of the Fish Nerds podcast. I'm recording this podcast in New Jersey, in Swedesboro, New Jersey. I'm at a podcasting conference called Podcast Mid-Atlantic, put on by my friend Super Joe Pardo. September 30th is the International Podcast Day, so it's a good month to talk about other podcasts. So today's show, we will be talking to other podcast nerds, sharing their fish stories, adventures, a little news. Hugo's with us, and he'll share us a nice new recipe. And, of course, we'll have lots of fun. So this is going to be kind of a funny ride because I recorded in a crowded hotel lobby with plenty of people around making lots of noise, and we'll see what we can do with all of this fish. All of this audio. First up, though, I walked the halls with the microphone and I asked people a simple question: what is a fish? And here are some of the answers. And of course, they mentioned their podcast because they are a bunch of nerds. Okay, ClayGrowsFishNerds.com. We are super excited. We are in New Jersey. This is the first time the Fish Nerds has ever been recorded in New Jersey. We're at the Death of the Fox Brewing Company. They brew beer and coffee, two of my favorite liquids on earth. And I'm hanging out with other podcasters at the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. And so, first of all, I'm going to ask each of these podcasters their name, what their podcast is, and what is a fish, which is the hardest animal to define on the earth, as far as I'm concerned. So, what is your name?
Amanda. I'm with Great Beer Adventure. You guys know me. Come on now.
Everyone knows Amanda. We do work together. I'm a correspondent. I work for Amanda. Amanda, what is a fish?
If you are a 4-year-old little girl, you think a fish goes balub, 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 and you just run around. So whenever I think of a fish, I think of that. And then I think of Dory and Nemo and my Lucky Finn because I'm Disney and nerdy and a mom. And then I also saw this video that they were talking about if a fish is wet because you're either dry or you're wet. But if you're all the way in water, can you really be considered wet? And I think so. I think a fish is wet, but it's a debate you could have.
You know, it's funny. Remind me of, I used to have this fantasy of covering myself in Vaseline and swimming and then coming out of the water and being dry. So you reminded me of that just now.
So yeah, would you technically be wet while you're in the water, even if you were covered in Vaseline?
This comes down to the age-old question, is water wet?
Right. I don't know. This is a conversation we're going to be having. I'm going to ask everybody that Clay tries to ask, what is a fish? Is water wet?
If water is wet, then the fish are wet, I would say.
So I'm kind of, let me rephrase this.
No, I can tell you.
Okay.
So a fish is a thing that swims in the water, and sometimes it walks on the bottom, but it's kind of slimy and prickly sometimes. But it has gills, and it goes blub, blub.
Blub, blub is scientifically accurate. Let me rephrase this. The question I want to know is, give me 3 biological traits that all fish have in common. How about that?
They are...
Who the hell are you?
I am Justin Hellstrom, and I work for Audio Editing Solutions, editing shows like The Great Beer Adventure. So fish, defining characteristics. They're vertebrates, I would say. So they have bones. That's cool. Depends on... I would say that, a fish...
They have a skeletal structure, but maybe not made of bones, per se.
I don't know,
because... Can that be the same?
Sharks, I'm not sure if they technically count as fish, but they have cartilage, so...
Right, but that's not bone.
Right. So is a shark a fish? Is it? Okay, so then apparently being a vertebrate doesn't make you a fish. I don't know.
You're in the water, you say blub blub, and you have gills. I named 3 for you. I don't know why you're rephrasing it. I gave you 3. It's scientific.
Oh, so, hey, connect fish and beers. Besides fish and chips, what is the connection between fish and good stouts?
Oh,
the connection
they have the Well, wine does. Wine has the fish stuff in it, so it's not actually vegan. You can't drink wine if you're a vegan unless you get the vegan one.
I was going to say the connection is that there are no fish in my beer. That's the kind of beer that I want. It's one without fish.
There was a brewery in Maine that made it with lobster and lots with oysters.
A lobster's a crustacean.
No, but I'm just trying to think of watery things. I don't know. You've stumped me.
Well, we do play a game on the show called Stump the Fish Nerds, right? So there is a chemical in the air bladder of fish that's used to make most stouts. So most stouts have a chemical from the air bladder of fish. Guinness only last year stopped including that chemical. Now they use an artificial process to replace that chemical in their beer. And the name of the chemical, it's in the tip of my brain, and I can't pull it out of my head right now.
Maybe you should know what that is before you try to stump somebody with an answer you don't actually know the answer to.
No, hold on. I'm now understanding why your show's called Fish Nerds. I'm starting to catch on a little bit.
Aren't there also fish in wine?
You're closer to wine than fish are.
No, I am pretty sure that there are fish parts used in wine. I'll almost bet you $10. Not quite, but almost.
Okay. The chemical is called isinglass.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and it comes from, it's used in cask ales. It's also used in wines and in stouts. Guinness had isinglass for years, comes from the swim bladder, and it's a real thing. So if you're a vegan and you don't want to partake in any kind of animal product, beware of cask ales, beware of most stouts. Not all. Like I said.
And gozas, if they're made with seawater. Because they just go and grab seawater, and there could be tiny little living particles in there, and how do you even know?
Planktons.
Yeah.
Our plankton's an animal.
Right. Yep.
Right, but it's just a byproduct thing, even for vegans. So maybe, if it's a living thing, right? And plankton's living.
No, vegans aren't against killing living things. They are against killing in the animal kingdom. So if they're eating, if you are eating,
Take a spoonful of plankton as a vegan and be like, these planktonites are delicious.
Well, that's the question. I'm not sure on this. Are plankton an animal or are they a protist?
A what?
A protist. What's a protist?
I don't know, but I feel like plankton is an animal. Pretty sure, what is a protist? I feel like I need to look that up because
plankton is a microscopic organism that float freely with ocean currents and in other bodies of water. Plankton is made up of tiny plants called phytoplankton and tiny animals called zooplankton. So it's both plants and animals. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Google is awesome. But anyway, if you're eating seaweed, you are not eating a plant or an animal. So that's
really weird to me, though, that seaweed's not a plant. That's the part that...
it's the weed part. Yeah, it's the nomenclature. Seaweed would make you think that it's like a plant weed, but it's not.
Well, it's also the green color, so you think plant, right? Because it has chloroplast and chlorophyll. So that's a giveaway, right? So you think, it must be a plant. But you have all these single-celled organisms that are actually using photosynthesis and they're consuming energy in other ways. So it's more than just a plant. So it's kind of interesting.
I feel like my brain is blown.
You're welcome. Welcome to the Fish Nerds.
Scott Mulvaney.
What's your podcast?
Live the Fuel.
Live the Fuel. And just tell us about
Health, business, and lifestyle.
Health business. And we're at Podcast Mid-Atlantic in beautiful downtown Swedesboro, New Jersey, where all the locals speak Swedish. And people who aren't from here don't know what's going on anymore. And there's a Wawa on every corner.
Yes, we do have a lot of Wawas here on the East Coast.
So first of all, where can people find your podcast?
LiveTheFuel.com.
It's so tricky, isn't it? Podcasting?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah. And so we do a fishing podcast, so we make sure that people know what we're talking about.
Well, I'm very big about active lifestyle, so that's huge.
Yeah, but speaking of active, I have this debate a lot. Is fishing a sport?
I've never done it as a sport. I think it as this. If you take a passion and you can get competitive with it, isn't it a sport? You're being there's sportsmanship, there's conduct.
Okay, so Scrabble, sport?
Well, I don't know about that.
Monopoly?
Nah, I can't do it. I can't do it because I'm an outdoorsy guy.
If you can drink beer while doing it, is it a sport?
If you talk to a couple of my buddies, yes. Because I have a buddy of mine who he puts a can of beer in his mountain bike water cage. So when we're out ripping the trails mountain biking, he pulls the can out and drinks while he rides.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fishermen are in the sporting world.
And don't you guys have holsters while you're fishing for your beer? I've seen this.
I've seen it too.
It's like
I've
a
seen
milk kit. I think it's like Batman.
Yeah, and the beer helmets, right?
Yeah. Oh,
so I actually don't drink when I fish.
Yes.
I fish when I fish, and I drink at home.
You stay focused. Good.
I stay focused. I'm also a guide, so when I'm guiding, I'm responsible, not fishing. My clients often fish.
So are you at the level of fishermen where I have buddies of mine who fish, and they say they do it for a Zen experience? It can cancel out. Like they're out in rivers in Colorado, just like out there again. These fly fishing guys.
You know what? They say that because they're not catching fish. Yeah, there's no zen. Fishing is an act of violence. There's nothing else you can do about it. And if you think violence is zen, you're a crazy person. Now, casting a line and making that look pretty on the water and tying flies,
I
zen.
grew up fishing. I remember the whole bobber thing and clipping all the weights on. There was all this work just to cast the first line. And then a buddy of mine just like, I just put a worm on the hook and throw it. He's like, I don't use bobbers, weights, anything. So everybody's got a different school of thought.
They're all different. And that's the fun thing about fishing is every culture it crosses and everything. So the question that I'm asking every podcast today is, talk biology here. So if you're talking about animals and you're like, okay, I know that all reptiles are cold-blooded. They've got a backbone. They've got scales and claws. We know that all mammals have milk, teeth, hair, all those things. Give me 3 biological traits that all fish have in common.
Oh, wow. Well, they've got gills. Is that a biological trait? Or no?
The gills is a biological trait. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong, by the way.
Because, okay. I believe they're cold-blooded. I don't know if that's right. No, it's a reptile. That's a reptile, isn't it? So you're not going to tell me, though. I don't know. So
I'm not going to answer. I'm just, what are 3 things?
You really stumped me this evening. Wow. So I went with the gills. I went with either cold-blooded or warm-blooded, so I'm really blanking on that one. And don't they have, like, double eyelids or something like that because they swim in the water? I don't know. So
I don't know. So no one knows.
Yeah.
So the fun thing about fish is, by the way, none of your answers are right. Okay. But the fun thing about fish is that's not a thing. Is fish aren't special.
Livethefuel.com.
Livethefuel.com.
Yeah.
And you spoke tonight at podcast Mid-Atlantic, and I liked it. And
this is cool, man.
Yeah, 8 minutes is short.
It was a challenge. I was like, you're going to have me speak for only 8 minutes? Okay. I was like, I'm just going to have fun.
That's all you can do. So I'll be speaking tomorrow, so we'll catch up.
I'm excited for it. Yeah.
It'll be fun. Totally
awesome.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Clay Grove, with Super Joe Pardo. We're at podcast Mid-Atlantic. Joe was just telling me how to get permission to fish at Disney World. Joe is an expert at Disney World.
Yes, I am. That is one of the few things I am. Am I an expert at Disney World? She would know.
Who is this?
She would tell you. This is Jeanette Pellegrini. She's our official photographer at MapCon. She's eating
Twizzlers. No, what am I eating? Twix.
I was going to say Snickers, but
by the way, only thing critical about MapCom so far, not nearly enough food.
So tomorrow there will be plenty of food. Okay. So are you lobbing that up to me so tomorrow there'll be plenty of food, chicken parm and penne vodka and lots of options.
So how does one get permission to fish at Disney World? In the park proper where the rides are, like Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom.
I have a friend that might know somebody. Well, I have a friend that knows somebody in that park called the Magic Kingdom. So I don't know that it could happen, but I if there was somebody that could make it happen, the president of Magic Kingdom could make that happen.
All right, and the one question I'm asking all podcasters is, give me 3 biological traits that all fish have in common. Give me 3 traits. Traits be like things like backbones, warm-blooded.
They have fins and they have gills.
Okay, thank you,
I know
Joe.
Something about fishing.
Yeah, by the way, not correct, but thank you so much for playing.
Wait, they don't have eyes?
Not all fish.
Well, wait. Time out. Biology here at 10 o'clock at night.
Not all fish.
Okay.
What are 3 things all fish have in common?
Scales.
Nope, not all fish.
Swimming.
A backbone.
Not all fish.
Oh, that's right.
Not all
Are we
fish.
counting octopuses?
No, I'm not talking octopuses. Where they live is not a biological trait. That's a habitat. So,
They breathe water.
No, they breathe air. They're oxygen breathers. But
oh my God,
but all animals use oxygen and produce waste. But what do 3 things all fish have in common for biological traits? Backbone, warm-blooded, scales, no scales, that sort of thing.
Gills. I said gills.
It's not gills. No.
No, dude, I don't even. I have no idea.
All right, well, thank you for playing. Thank you. Is that Super Joe Pardo?
No,
and you
it's
can
not
find
so super when it comes to fishing.
you can find his podcast wherever your podcasts are found. What's
I've
your
only fished
Dreamers
like 4
podcast, right?
times in my
And-
life. I'm
Hey,
horrible.
Joe, you have an open
I'm horrible at
invitation.
this.
Now, I'm an ice fishing guide, which means I ice fish for money in the winter.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I take people fishing. Now, for you, for free, if you want to come up in the winter time to New Hampshire, I will take you ice fishing
Okay.
and teach you a whole new culture of stuff
Maybe next winter.
next winter.
Not this winter because of the baby. The baby's coming.
You just had a baby.
I know we're having another baby.
Stop
You
it.
didn't see
Their
that?
babies
Man,
are
so many people
gross.
didn't see this.
Yeah. I stopped following you,
He
Joe.
didn't even know.
Look, once you have one baby, your friends walk away. They're tired of it. So no more babies.
Somebody
All right.
shows up.
That's Joe Pardo from Dreamers Podcast. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much for coming, Clay. I look forward to your class tomorrow.
It'll be great. Sure. And hey, podcast fans, I'm here with Harry Duran. Harry is host and owner and boss and everything of it with Podcast Junkies, a podcast about podcasters. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. 3.5 years ago, I was at NMX and I was inspired.
Fish people don't know what NMX means.
It's a New Media Expo. It's a conference for bloggers, YouTubers, and podcasters. And I said, I'm going to start my podcast there. And I saw so many cool podcasters. I said, why don't I do a show about them?
About them. And so your show, you just interview podcasters about podcasting, right?
Yeah, it's about an hour-long show. And I just want to think about inside the actor studio, except instead of actors, it's podcasters.
Yeah. And in fact, by the way, and so the thing about podcasting and fishing and all that stuff is Fish Nerds fans listen to other podcasts, and they're always looking for other podcasts to listen to, right? So whether they're into fishing or other things, they've got multiple interests, and that's why a show like yours is appealing, because there are over 400,000 podcasts. Have you heard this number?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But what that means is there's something for everyone. So even in the fishing community, I imagine there's if you could go niche, I always coach people on how to go niche. You could probably start a show about tackle or specific hooks or lures or something like that.
And that is a real thing. And the problem with fishing podcasts is there's only one really great one that I know of. It's called the Fish Nerds. Right? Everyone knows this. Actually, I have a lot of friends who podcast about fish and fishing, and it's all a lot of fun. We're not niche in our show. We do all fish stuff.
Of course.
So I have a fish question for you. I'm asking all podcasters this. Did you take biology in high school?
I did.
Where'd you go to high school?
Archbishop Stepanak in White Plains, New York.
White Plains. It's not a judgment of your school, but I'm going to ask you a question. So if I asked you, what biological trait do all amphibians have in common? You would be able to answer that, right? If I said mammal, you'd say...
Elephant.
Elephant's a mammal, right. They've got hair, they got teeth, they're warm-blooded, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me, 2 things that all fish have in common for traits? Not where they live, but, their physical traits. What are 2 things all fish have in common?
They don't understand the concept of water.
They don't know what water means?
No, because it's just for them, it's home, right? It's
home, right.
Yeah, so
but that's not a biological trait, right? So you're trying to trick me here.
So they use their tails to navigate.
Okay, so that's how they move.
Yeah, that's how they move.
Right? So,
That's not it.
but they don't have tails, so
Fish have tails.
not all.
Not all.
No, and we don't call them tails either. We call them caudal fins.
Caudal fins. Every single fish is a caudal fin?
No,
Okay.
no, some fish don't have them at all.
I'm learning something new every day here. Sharks have fins.
Sharks have fins. That's true.
Okay. Dolphins,
Not a fish.
not a fish. It's a mammal.
Right, but actually, dolphin fish, mahi mahi is a fish, right?
A dolphin, mahi mahi is a dolphin fish?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
What's the qualification to become a dolphin fish?
not be a dolphin. I don't know.
We are seriously off the rails.
We have no idea. It's a fun question to ponder. If you think about this as you get on with your week, are you doing anything tomorrow? Are you just hanging out?
I'm just trying to meet as many podcasters as possible.
There's a lot here. I hope you
I'm in the
invite.
right place.
I hope you invite the Fish Nerds on your show. I'd love to-
Well,
Well,
that was
interesting.
And that's a game I play a lot with people, especially if I'm teaching kids and we're talking about fish. I'll ask them what is a fish and try to get people to explain it. And you hear me say a lot of times, what I like about fish is there's nothing special. Speaking of special, we've got some podcast reviews. I'm going to read them right now. First up, from iTunes. By the way, if you want to support the Fish Nerds, a good way to do it is to tell us how you like our show. This is from iTunes. This is titled LOL, and it's by someone named Anthony H. Anthony Hayes. I think he makes a podcast called Me, Myself, and I Radio. And it says, can't remember the last time I had so much fun listening to a podcast. Subscribe to this one. And we got another one. I might be biased, but is the title. This is by PKU2. 5 stars. Okay, disclaimer first. I've known Clay for over 10 years. I go fishing with him and have been listening to the show and helping out supporting the podcast off and on over the years. So I realize my review is biased. That being said, purely from a substance standpoint, the podcast covers a wide variety of fishing-related topics and keeps evolving and developing its unique voice. I think Clay's passion for all things fishing and low-key approach makes the podcast accessible and relevant to all levels of anglers. If you don't take yourself or fishing too seriously, but love fishing and all things fish-related, this is the podcast for you. That's my friend Nick. He does some of our audio work, and he wrote the song for Fish in the News. And we got one more to read for you, and this is from Paul Chomo. Paul Chomo is the host of the Varmints podcast. You want a good podcast for kids about animals, not just for kids, but anyone about animals. The Varmints is the show for you, Varmints podcast. Even though this podcast is about fishing, it isn't about what's the best spinnerbait to use. This podcast is a great mix of fishing, comedy, commentary, interviews, music segments that all revolve around being good fishermen and a good outdoorsman. I don't get to go fishing near as often as I would like to, so this podcast is a good one to have when I'm stuck in my office working. Well done, Clay. And I should say right now, Paul is from Florida, and he has evacuated. So our fishy prayers go out to all the people being affected by all these hurricanes, not just in Florida, but everywhere. It's a crazy time right now to be in hurricane's path. Although if we were smart, we'd be praying before the hurricanes come so that they wouldn't come at all. We can say, hey, God, maybe you want to just like turn those things off before they hit the land. But, we don't plan ahead when we pray. We only pray after the fact. That's my rant. All right. How about, speaking of death and destruction, how about some killing fish and time with Hugo? This week, Hugo is back with a new recipe, salmon tartare. By the way, if you're not cooking it, is it really a recipe? I don't know.
Greetings, Fish Nerd Nation. Hugo Medeiros here, reporting to you with a quick and simple little delicious recipe. You will find the recipe on fishnerds.com. This one's super cool. I'm excited. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon here in Massachusetts in the summertime, cooling off a little bit, and getting excited to go fishing tomorrow. Gonna get back out there after black sea bass and tautog, which they call blackfish in Rhode Island. They're both amazing fish to eat anywhere in the world. They're phenomenal fish. The black sea bass you can do anything with. The tautog as well, but the tautog is known for being great in chowder, because it's got a real nice texture and it doesn't fall apart. So I'm salivating. I can't wait. I hope to get some tomorrow. I should. Yeah, you can cook it and it doesn't fall apart, but it still stays nice and tender, which is amazing. But anyways, what we got here today is we're doing giving thanks to one of the best chefs in the world. A guy, I love his style. I love his style of cooking. He's just amazing. And it's Jacques Pepin, famous French chef. So this is one of his recipes. The things he does blow me away. So we'll do something that seems so simple, and it is so simple, but just the combinations are amazing. Hence why he's a world-renowned chef. So this one, folks, is awesome. I have to hold myself back from eating it as I go. So what I'm making is Jacques Pepin's salmon tartare. So it's basically it's a rare dish. It's the salmon's not cooked. So what we do is I got a pound of salmon, cut the fillet into 3 strips. Of course, I had to skin it first. Cut it into 3 strips, and then you just sorry, I'm confusing that with another recipe I'm doing for a sushi roll. So this one, you can cut it any way you like. You basically, for the tartare, you just have to chop it up until it's, little cubes. Now, this, in a bowl, we mixed with drained capers, lots of scallions, some very good quality, real extra virgin olive oil that is just amazing. A tablespoon of that. and about a teaspoon of vinegar. I usually put a little bit more because I like things sour. So I do probably 1.5 tablespoons of vinegar, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. We got salt, white pepper, and this is making my mouth water. And then we put a diced red onion in there, and that's it for that. So that you have the tuna tartare. So the capers, the fish, the scallions, salt and pepper, oil and vinegar, and red onions. And I put a dash of chipotle hot sauce in there because I like things a little bit spicy. So now what we're going to do on this is I boiled some cauliflower for about 5 minutes so it's not turned to mush. And that we're going to chop up small and put some red onion in there. Season it again with salt and pepper, a little bit of oil and vinegar. And that we are going to take, on a plate, we're going to put a circle mold, a 4-inch circle mold. And around it, we have hard-boiled eggs that I put through the egg slicer one way, then turned it in the other way, so it's kind of like cubed. That goes around the mold on the edge of it, so it just makes it fancy, makes it look pretty, but it looks cool. And inside the mold, we'll put the layer of that cauliflower salad, and then on top of that, we put our mixture of the tuna tartare, and then you take out the mold and serve it as is. I might drizzle a little of that great olive oil on top of it and garnish it with some thin sliced scallions. But how cool is that? I'm going to finish that off and post the pictures online. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you in a bit. Bye.
Thanks, Hugo. And I never get tired of Hugo sharing his stories. How about some fish in the news?
News, fish in the news. Everybody loves their fish in the news.
This is Justin Hellstrom. I am a editor and show note writer at Audio Editing Solutions. You can find us at audioeditingsolutions.com.
Yeah, and this is cool. So we're at Mid-Atlantic Podcast Convention or Conference here in beautiful downtown Swedesboro, New
Right.
Jersey, right?
We really didn't get outside that much.
We got outside never.
No.
Never. This was a big inside show, but it was really cool. Did you learn a lot today?
Oh, I learned a ton, especially since I'm more on the getting and appeasing clients side of things.
Mm-hmm.
There were some really awesome takeaways and people to actually partner up with.
Yeah, and this is really cool too. So a lot of our listeners actually are podcasters, or they're wanting to be podcasters. And so this is kind of a nerdy show this week about, we're at a podcast conference making a show about fish, right? So we have to connect it all together. So I thought I'd invite other podcasters on and talk a little bit about what they do, and then do the news with me. So you get to do the fish in the news, the world famous fish in the news.
I'm so stoked.
It's really exciting. And so if people are making a podcast and they don't want to get in the tech and be an audio nerd as well as a fish nerd or whatever outside show they're doing, they can call you or email you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they can hire you to be their audio nerd for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they can focus on the content creation.
Right.
Back in the day when I started podcasting, we do it all ourselves. But now we get people like you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you exist.
Some of our clients, they just talk into a microphone and that's it. End of story. We do take care of everything else pretty much.
That sounds beautiful.
Right.
Yep. When I get the big time sponsorship, you're in.
Yeah, I would be looking forward to that.
But in the meantime, anyone making a podcast out there needs audio help, they can contact you. Now, do you do consulting?
Yep.
If someone wants to do their own editing, but they need help getting to that point, would you do a consulting?
Yep, that would actually be John, my partner / uncle. He does more of the consulting side of things, but yeah, he does an awesome job, and he's hilarious.
Yeah, I was just talking to him. He has a podcast, and he edits a whole bunch of other podcasts, and he's a fish nerd. He knows everything.
Yeah.
So, way cool guy.
Thanks to Grandpa Buchanan.
Yeah, so really cool. So we're going to do some fish in the news, and we're going to do one story here. And this is the real Shark Tank. Have you seen the show Shark Tank?
Yes.
Okay. So this is actually out from the AP. And the story is, and this is believe it or not, this is in New York, right?
Okay.
So 7 live sharks and 3 dead ones found in New York home's basement pool. Right. This is in Larry Grangeville, New York. Now, what do you think of when you think of someone's basement pool full of sharks?
Well, why is there a basement pool?
Right. Well, if you have a basement full of sharks, it's not your basement; it's your lair.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You're like,
Are there freaking lasers attached to their freaking heads?
You're on to what I was going. All I want is a shark with a freaking laser beam. Yeah, and then you got to laugh maniacally.
Pet your small clone.
Exactly. Yeah, you're mini me. So this is a real thing, though. Like, apparently, well, look, it's 2017. Times have changed.
I'm impressed that 7 of them were alive.
That's remarkable. Okay, so 7 live sharks and 3 dead ones have been seized from a pool in the basement of a home in New York's Hudson Valley. The State Department of Environmental Conservation said Wednesday officers searching a home in the Dutchess County hamlet of Lagrangeville last month found a 15-foot diameter above-ground basement pool with 7 live sandbar sharks, 2 dead leopard sharks, and 1 dead hammerhead shark.
Oh no, my favorite.
And hammerheads are endangered.
Oh yeah,
and protected. So this is a big deal that they had this shark.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so curious on where this story goes. I didn't pre-read this, so I don't know where we're going here. So far, it's crazy.
Right.
I want to know what the cops thought when they first came in the house.
They probably smelled it before they laid eyes on it, I'm sure.
I don't know. Officials say all the sharks were 2 feet to 4 feet long. That's marine wildlife experts took blood samples and measured and tagged the sharks before transferring them to a Long Island aquarium and a truck equipped with water tanks, oxygen, and climate control. No one has been charged, and an investigation is continuing.
You're kidding. No one's been charged? What, the sharks just magically appeared?
Well, hammerhead sharks, you're not going to find in New York waters. So the question is, where did they get those sharks?
Black market, I guess?
Is
there for sharks? I bet there is for like illegal sharks in aquariums, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like they drove to Florida, caught some sharks, drove them home.
Yeah, I
put them in their tank. Now, what I want to know is where are the lasers? And once they find the lasers, is it domestic terrorism?
Yeah, pew, pew, pew.
Pew. Yeah, like, I don't know. I got to see how this turns out. We will follow up. If there's any more information on the real shark tank in New York, we will report it here first at fishnerds.com.
Turn yourself in, too, if this is your fault and you're listening.
Yes.
Call in. You can do it anonymous. I'm sure that would make a fantastic guest.
In fact, call 607-378-FISH and leave us a voicemail if you know anything further on this story, and we will totally follow up.
Yeah.
So that's it. Hey, so one more time, how can people find you?
Audioeditingsolutions.com.
Perfect.
That's plain and simple. Yeah.
Good. And we'll put links up at fishnerds.com with photos and stories from this weekend's podcast conference. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Clay.
David Steele with the SteeleEmpire.com. STEELE Empire.com.
Right. Have you been to Swedesboro before?
I have. I don't live too far from here.
Where do you live?
I live in Glassboro, actually.
Glassboro.
Which is like 1 or 2 towns.
Is that where Rowan State College
That's right.
is?
Rowan. It used to be called Glassboro State.
I know. I went to high school in Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey. Lived down in Rio Grande, so I know the area.
I forgot. Yeah.
So I know the area. I'm not just some hick from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I'm a recent hick, and I love it. I prefer it, but I also like to visit once in a while.
Excellent.
So you have a podcast.
Yes.
And it's a Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
Correct.
I saw you talking to a girl today. You want to explain that?
My wife might listen to this. Don't tell me that.
No, you got married and everything. So it's true. A Dungeons and Dragons nerd can actually win in the end.
Yes.
Are you a recent Dungeons and Dragons nerd or old school?
Yeah, no, recent, totally. I was a closet nerd, I guess, growing up.
Yeah, it's never been cooler than now to be a nerd.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's like nerd chic.
Yeah,
You're so cool.
Absolutely. Thanks to my kids. Yeah, we got into it.
You play with your kids?
Oh yeah.
Wow, they're nerdier than you.
Absolutely.
They hang out with their dad.
That's right.
How old are your kids?
They don't like my dad jokes, though.
Oh, no.
23 is my oldest, and 17 is the youngest.
Oh, you're almost done parenting. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
Then you get marital happiness.
Okay. I hope so.
This is a true story.
All right.
True story. So I have a degree in psychology, and when I was a senior, we were studying adult psychology and happiness and that sort of thing. And we read a happiness study that was done in England with about 30,000 people. And they have a happiness index, right? So when you first get married, call that 100. You're never going to be happier than in your marriage than the day you get married, right?
The honeymoon, yep.
The honeymoon, right? Call that 100. And it stays nice for about a year and a half. And then what happens? You knock up your wife, right?
That's right.
That's what we call it in New Jersey.
That's right.
You knock her up.
Oh, yeah.
And then your marital happiness plummets to about a 20.
Like,
But that's why I had so many kids.
Right.
And you have another kid, goes up a little bit.
it spikes and drops, spikes and drops.
Yeah.
Then as the kids age, when you get done having kids, it slowly ticks back up again until the kids move out. And then it spikes back up to about 90.
Wow.
It never gets to 100 again because you can't recreate what you have.
Oh, sure.
So whenever there's a divorce and like you say to the kids, oh, it's not you, sweetie, it's mom and dad.
When it was them?
It's the freaking kids. It's always the kids.
Oh no.
Yeah, you got to let them own it. I'm not getting divorced, but whenever I'm unhappy, I tell my kids, it's you.
Oh,
it's you. Yeah.
My man.
Yeah, it's because of you. Now, hopefully they're not hearing the show. So
yeah. Did we come up with a name for you last night? I thought we said, right?
The sheriff last night.
Oh.
Yeah. I was the sheriff. So we're here to do some fish in the news, not talk about D&D and not talk
Can
about...
I sing a song?
Please,
Fish
yes.
Fish heads.
Roly-poly fish heads, yeah. So from the old Dr. Demento.
Yes! That's right. You're from the area, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I actually went to junior high school in Manhattan.
Dr. Demento show.
Yeah, I lived... When I was 13 and 12, I lived in Governor's Island, New York.
Okay.
And I went to junior high school on 14th Street in Manhattan.
Wow.
Before moving to New Jersey. So we were well acquainted with Dr. Demento and... what was someone? I'm coming to take you away. Ha ha! I'm coming to take you to the funny farm. Where life is beautiful all the time.
Yes.
So the whole
Fish
thing.
heads and then the funny farm. Yeah.
And then all the old Weird Al stuff that was always on there.
Oh,
And, it's all good stuff. All right. So fish news. Girl pulls sword from legendary Lake of King Arthur's Excalibur.
Yes, I saw this.
This is on the Huff Post.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is true. And this happened, just last week.
Right.
So this little girl. I'm gonna read you the news. England's got a new queen. That is, if Excalibur's legend is true. A 7-year-old girl in Cornwall, England, is making news after reportedly pulling a 4-foot sword out of the same lake that King Arthur's Excalibur blade is said to have been tossed.
Right.
Matilda Jones was swimming around a Dosmary pool in Bodmin Moor, Cornwall, on Tuesday when she caught sight of a shining metal beneath the water surface, the Sheffield Star reported. She was only waist deep when she said she could see a sword, Matilda's father said, Paul Jones, who was with her at the time of the discovery. I told her, don't be silly. It was probably a bit of fencing. But when I looked down, I realized it was a sword, and it was just lying flat on the bottom of the lake. It's really amazing. So I haven't read the whole story yet. But so she's swimming around, finds a sword in the bottom.
Yeah.
Pulls it up. Now, if I was her dad, I would tell everyone I found it so I could be king. That's the kind of parent
You're
I
a
am.
bad parent.
Look, your kids, I tell my kids every week, like Zoe, give me that, that book. That's my book. Nope, you don't own things.
Oh.
There's nothing in this house that belongs to you. You don't have a job. You don't earn money. It's
This is
mine.
my house.
Your bed you sleep in, my bed. Your food on your plate is my food, and I'm letting you eat it. That's my sword. My sword. I'm
And
king.
That's the psychology major.
Mhm.
And you say you had that?
Right.
That's
I'm
good for
not.
the kids,
I'm
right?
not raising wusses. My kids are tough. I have 2 daughters, and they can kick your ass.
Nice.
Yeah. Coincidentally, the discovery came just after Matilda's father said he told his 2 young daughters, Matilda and her 4-year-old sister, the Legend of King Arthur. He just read the story to them, and they found
No
the sword.
way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And by the way, that to me, right, that one line, they found that sword in the lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
According to the one version of the ancient story, Excalibur was presented to him by the Lady of the Lake. The powerful sword, which carried magical powers, could only be possessed by the rightful sovereign of the Great Britain. And that sword does not look old in the picture here.
Right.
After being mortally wounded, the king ordered the sword to be thrown back into the lake, where it was caught by the hand from the emerging water. Could Matilda's sword be a thing of history or in lore? Her father suspects not.
Nah.
Though its discovery makes for a pretty cool story, he estimated that it's only about 20 or 30 years old. It's probably a film prop.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
It's a cool story, though, anyway.
It's a great story.
It
That's why
is.
the Huff Post. Now, the Huff Post usually tells stories about lies. So usually, fish stories in there are never right.
Is that right?
There's a classic fish story. We tell so 3 times a year. The Huff Post, and Fish Nerds fans will know this story. The Huff Post tells a story about a pacu that will, if you swim naked where it is, it will eat your nuts.
Oh, nice.
And they share this picture of this pacu, which is in the piranha family, has like human-like teeth, and they call it the legendary nut cruncher or something like that. We on the Fish Nerds call that Paku of Lies. It never ever happened, but they reported that way. Jeremy Wade from River Monsters reported that story.
Yeah. Okay.
But the Paku of Lies line, we used that first, and then Snopes snoped HuffPost, and their title of that was Paku of Lies.
Ooh.
They stole my line.
What?
Yeah, and we emailed them and contacted them and asked for citation. Nothing.
And no.
I sent them a copy of the podcast, the timestamp when I said it, a bit of me on public radio saying that line, and a blog post with that line in it. And it was all predates their story. And
they don't care.
No response.
Yeah.
So screw them.
Oh.
Yeah, screw them. And this week, I wear a sweatshirt. This morning I was wearing a sweatshirt. On the back it said, "I am fish" on it.
Right.
So I've been wearing that for a few years. I was fishing with a little girl once who didn't speak English, and she caught a fish. And she climbed as high in the boat as she could and held the fish above her head and yelled, "I am fish."
Nice.
Her best English sentence.
Was she related to Groot?
Yeah, I am Groot. No, this predates Groot.
Right.
So don't talk. Anyway. But then last week, I get an email from someone who listens to the show with a picture of the most recent Swedish fish ad. Big full-page newspaper ad. Picture of a fish. I am fish.
Oh no,
those bastards!
Oh, they're listening to your show.
Everyone's listening to the Fish Nerds now. We
I
are
love
a
it.
thing. We are
it.
a thing. And I did my first podcast presentation ever today.
Excellent.
Yeah, my first conference presentation. So
spectacular.
Yeah, did you enjoy it?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me how great I was.
No, you were great.
Yeah, okay,
yeah. What was your talk about?
I don't remember. I think I just talked about me and smiled.
Something about Weren't two of you were up there, weren't you?
Yeah, it was me and it was Amanda Dowdy
Amanda, that's right.
from The Great Beer Adventure.
Mhm,
Yeah, who,
I remember.
I do some work on her show. She does some work on my show. So.
And you gave us homework. We had to go do something.
You had to go and I made you do work at
Yeah.
the time, and then it was called a workshop. I was just
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so say the name of your podcast again.
A Quest for Magic and Steel, and our website is steelempire.com.
.com. And
Don't forget
links.
the last E. STEELE Empire.
And if you can't remember that, you can remember fishnerds.com for
Hey.
all the links in the show notes.
Aw,
it's
thank
remarkable.
you.
It's a magical thing.
I love it.
It's magic and steel.
Fish heads, fish heads.
Roly poly fish heads.
I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com. Anthony Hayes from Me, Myself, and I Radio.com.
Harry Duran, host of PodcastJunkies.com.
Right. So we're full of podcasters today on the Fish Nerds podcast, which is just strange, but it's appropriate because actually a lot of our listeners have been starting to do media stuff, YouTube channels, and even podcasters. We have some listeners. One of the guys' name is Justin Moen. He's a Patreon supporter. He gives us money every week, which I love and we need.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. And he has a podcast called the Live Well Podcast. Brand new, was like on his third episode, so he's just learning. And by the way, he should check out School of Podcasting for some good tips.
And we should check out and subscribe to his show as well.
And give him some feedback because he's new at it and wanting to hear, like, hey, how can I get better? What can I do differently? And he's a great guy from Minnesota. He's got a great Minnesota accent. And I love
Minnesota.
that. Yeah, exactly how he sounds. I don't know if he
That was
sounds
a
that way.
terrible accent. I don't know.
Yeah. So we're doing a little...
Shout out to Justin.
Shout out to Justin. And so we're doing a little Fish in the News. You guys are all podcasters. We're at the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. And I'm excited. And I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm nervous because I listen to all three of your shows. And I feel like I'm hanging out with people who are like big-time celebrities in the podcasting world. And
we're just podcasters.
I know. We're just a bunch of nerds sitting at a table.
We're all celebrities to each other.
Exactly. All right. So this actually is not my funniest news piece, but we're going to do it anyway. This is from the Washington Post. And the headline is, "The bad news is that fish are eating lots of plastic, and even worse, they may like it." Yeah.
How does one determine whether a fish actually enjoys eating plastic?
What do you think, Dave?
Do they have a smile on their face? I mean, how does it, is there chocolate involved or salt or ketchup on the plastic?
I mean, I would think they tell you, right? They just what does a fish say when it's happy? Blub blub. That's the answer to everything for fish.
Oh, okay.
Everyone knows that.
That's where he mixes in the sound effect.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Pretend there's sound. No, blub blub is actually the answer. This is so as you bite down into a delicious piece of fish, you probably don't think about what the fish itself ate. And by the way, we should all be really thinking about what fish are eating.
Oh, so if the fish tastes funny, that means it ate something funny?
Not necessarily. It could be it's old. There's a lot of different reasons it could taste
But
bad.
there's also the bigger fish that eat the smaller fish, and then hence the mercury, high levels of mercury.
Right. In fact, if you really want to eat healthy and you want to eat fish, eat the bait.
Because I love worms.
Sardines.
I meant like sardines. Yeah.
He meant like smaller fish.
Dave, do you fish?
I do not.
I could tell.
Dave, do you eat worms?
Not in a while. I'm trying to cut down. So.
Did your father ever take you fishing?
Once.
How'd that go?
I caught a bluegill on a bamboo pole. It was the bamboo pole thing in the little river thing, and yeah,
impressive.
The funny thing now, there's a new style of fishing out now that's called tenkara fishing. It's from Japan, and what it is it's a 10-foot collapsible fishing rod made out of like some fiber, carbon, expensive things, with a string on it. But they don't call it string; they call it lead or tippet material, and a fly. The rod costs about $300.
I had a collapsible fishing rod. It was my grandfather's, actually, at one point.
Well, so there's no reel on this thing at all, right? And you walk the streams and you fish, and you call it tenkara fishing, right? But it's no different than the bamboo rod you used as a kid that cost $395.
Is it similar to fly fishing?
In some states it is.
Okay.
It looks like fly fishing, but there's no reel. In New Hampshire, where I live, it's actually not legal fly fishing. So if you're in a river where it's a fly fishing only river, you can't tenkara fish there because you don't have a reel on your rod.
Is the rod by any chance made out of plastic? Because we could kill two birds with one stone.
You could actually kill two fish with one stone.
All right. So more than 50 species of fish have been found to consume plastic trash at sea. This is bad news, not only for the fish, but potentially also for the humans. Now, you probably don't know this, but whenever you drink single-use plastic water bottles, I don't use single-use plastics anymore at all. It doesn't always make it to the ocean, but a lot of times it does. And it's the ocean has giant patches of plastic, and it does
outside of Texas, right? Like
not just outside of Texas, but
Gulf. I think
in the Gulf.
The biggest collection of plastic is. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the size of Texas.
The size of Texas. It's up in I think the Pacific Ocean has one. There's one in the Atlantic Ocean. But that stuff breaks down over time, and those little flakes get into the water, and the fish see them as food, and the turtles and all the other animals see them as food, and they aggregate into the fish.
I wonder if the animals that are eating this plastic are the ones that are like not so smart, maybe rode the short.
All right, fish don't usually die from eating the plastic, but they eat enormous quantities. It does have some negative effects that scientists have discovered when the fish consume plastics. And what happens is it compromises their liver function. And they're worried that as people eat those fish, we're going to see compromised liver functions as well. Because it's a toxic compound, and all your liver does is filter out all those toxics. It's not a funny story.
No, it's not. It's one of those, it's wow.
It's one of those stories that gets sadder as we go.
Yeah. The further we go into this, like, wow.
5 minutes ago, I did a story about sharks in someone's basement swimming pool, and now I'm doing this one. You saw that one? Can we go back to that one?
So the question is, who ordered fish tonight at dinner?
Exactly.
The tuna was delicious.
You thought so?
The tuna?
Yeah.
The sushi tuna?
Yeah.
For a Holiday Inn? Yeah.
Okay.
It was good.
So
okay, we're not New York City blue ribbon quality style. But for a Holiday Inn, it was decent.
I know. I was talking to you about this, Dave. What did I say?
He asked him, "Can you tell me where the tuna's from?" And she said, "No, but I can go check." And then she never came back.
Never came back. And I do a lot of shows about sustainable seafood. And one of the most basic things you can do as a consumer when you're out for seafood, ask the server, where's the fish from? If they say, I don't know, I say, order the pork.
This is when you order fish at an actual restaurant, not in the lobby of a Holiday Inn.
Right. Therefore, you should not even be ordering it. I broke my own rule by doing it,
They are not going to let us back here for MapCon 2018 next year because we were just bashing this place.
Their buffalo sliders were delicious last night.
But it's a fish show, not a buffalo chicken show.
All right. I'm actually not going to finish reading the story because I'm just so sad.
No, but here's the takeaway. Like, don't dump your freaking plastic in the ocean. Like, be considerate, man. Like, even the 6-pack rings, and I know they're making, like, edible, like, decomposable, compostable ones, but when people have no disregard, like, a total disregard for plastic and they just throw it in the trash, where do you think it's going to end up?
Well, and the funny thing, go ahead.
Yeah, just be a responsible citizen and recycle. I mean, it doesn't take really too much extra effort, you know?
But so the single use plastic thing it's actually a bigger problem than that. It's you're environmentally you're talking about the greenhouse problem from just making it, delivering it, and then you're packing water. So you're putting nothing into a plastic bottle and selling it to people. And now I live in New Hampshire. We have great water. How's the water in Ohio?
It's fine. Yeah.
It used to not be, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a few rivers that would catch on fire, but that was back in the 70s.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So, but no, for the most part, I mean, I have a Brita filter, but there are times when I'm like, I'll just go right to the tap. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I used to drink this out of the tap. It's really not that bad.
It's not bad. Anthony, where are you from?
Virginia.
And
Sorry, I'm taking selfies.
How's the water in Virginia? I know as we get south, it gets more sulfury.
I drank it like once or twice, but I hate to say I've been drinking bottled water lately.
Yeah, I understand. As you get to places like where the water maybe is less good. Where are you from?
So I live in Los Angeles, and I actually have a distiller because I'm a water nerd, and I distill water because all you need to do is distill water once, and then look at what's left after you distill it. It is like the nastiest crud that comes out of the tap, and you just don't want to drink tap water after that.
Yeah, so where I live up in White Mountains, New Hampshire, about 3 miles from my house is the Poland Spring water bottling plant.
Which is neither Poland Spring...
It is water.
It is water.
But the reason they're there is because the groundwater in my town is some of the best water in the country, right out of the tap. And there's a lot of great beer breweries in my town because of the high quality of water. There's a couple of whiskey distillers coming to town because of the high quality of water. And so in my town, it always surprises me to see anyone drinking bottled water. When I travel to Virginia or anywhere in the South, I usually bring a couple of gallons of water from my tap with me because if I was you, I'd also be in the bottled water.
Yeah, I made a conscious decision for that reason. I went ahead and grabbed, instead of grabbing a case of like 24 with the 24 plastic bottles, I grabbed like the 2.5 gallon and stuck it in my fridge. So I'm trying to be. I've been very lazy in the past. I'm not even going to try to lie to you when it comes to that. But
I would lie to me.
I think okay.
All right, so
this is not a fact check podcast.
So. It's definitely not. This show is mostly true, so we don't have to be honest all the time.
I like it even better.
Yeah. So we're going to go real quick. What is Podcast Junkies for our audience? So this September 29th or 30th is International Podcast Day?
The 30th, yes.
30th, right? So our listeners should be looking for new podcasts. What is Podcast Junkies?
Podcast Junkies is an opportunity to learn a little bit more about your favorite podcasters, and I just have in-depth, hour-long conversations with some of the most interesting podcasters in the known podverse.
Nerds. Right.
Yet I've never been on his show. I'm disgusted right now.
Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, and on Me, Myself, and I Radio, we talk about everything from personal development to self-discovery, depression, mental health. We cover a ton of topics, not only that I've went through myself, but with my guests, and we go through their journey and kind of tell a story to inspire our listeners to make themselves better in their own lives and be inspired.
So people like me who've lived a perfect life have no use on your show.
Yeah, I would never have you on there.
No, I wouldn't bother. No.
Zero struggles.
No struggles, no strife. Just weird fashion sense, that's all. Dave Jackson?
Yeah, the School of Podcasting helps people plan, start, launch, and grow their podcast.
And I have to say, I'm such a huge fan of the School of Podcasting. Every Monday.
Same here.
Every single Monday, I listen to that show. And then do you guys listen to Podcast Rodeo?
No.
You should. This is Dave's experimental show where every 2-3 times a week?
Yeah, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, podcastrodeoshow.com. We grab a random podcast, throw it on, and see how long we can hang.
Grab mine.
Oh, yes. I read about that. I saw it. Yes, I saw that on your feed.
It's so good.
Awesome.
How do you determine how to randomly pick a podcast?
I ask Alexa to pick a random number between 1 and 16, which is how many categories there are in iTunes. Then I ask her to pick a number between 1 and 300, which is how many podcasts are displayed. And I pick it on and throw it on, and sometimes it's good.
Okay, I have to add that to
many
my
times it's not.
It fundamentally changed the way I do the beginning of my show because I don't want people ditching the show in the first 30 seconds. Now you can get your show on by just going to Dave's website and clicking a little button. Yes. But I want to put
other people shows up on it. So I might buy people the $5 gift of having their podcast beat up by Dave.
Nice.
Do you let the people know that you've reviewed their show?
No, not typically. I have. I've had people that had Google alerts, and they're like, "You don't this and that," and I'm like, "Look, I'm just letting you know it's my honest first impression. I didn't understand what the show was about. Your audio quality wasn't very good, and you were all over the place." My favorite was this guy read this guy's bio, and it literally took like a minute and a half. And then he got done. He finally gets to this guy because he explains what a great guest he is. And then he gets him on and goes, "Yeah, is there anything else you would like to add to your bio?" And I'm like, "Please, come on. You just made me sit through like an hour-long bio." And it's like, "Is there anything else?" And I'm like, "Let's get to a question, shall we?"
If anyone is interested what an episode of Podcast Rodeo would be like, let me just read the show notes from the most recent one. The audio has some serious problems with volume. The hosts have a ton of inside jokes laughing at things that aren't funny, at least to the audience, and they decided to use their first impression talking about sponsors. Not a great first impression. Be organized, get your audio volume consistent, and get off of SoundCloud. And then there's a coupon code.
I thought people signed up for it. The fact that it's picked randomly makes it that much more entertaining.
Both things can happen. So it's random, or you can sign up for it.
Jump in line. It's $5. I have a Fiverr button because again, I wanted to play with Fiverr. I'm like, all right.
Wow.
So if you want to cut in line, you can click the Fiverr. You can. It's a Fiverr.
Okay.
And I will listen to the first part of your show and give you my unbiased.
So that's free publicity, people.
Yeah.
Don't turn $5.
Yeah. So there's that. And if nobody has done a Fiverr, then I pull out Alexa and she picks somebody.
Awesome.
And the only time I ever skip is if it's like a Japanese show or something, because if I can't understand it, I can't.
So you heard it here
something
first.
against specifically Japanese shows?
Say that.
Anything that's not, unfortunately, I only speak one language, so I'm only able to really review English-speaking shows, but
you could pull up a Japanese show and be like, I didn't understand anything they said.
That's it.
But the sound quality was great. Good intro, good music, all the stuff. Show notes are pretty to look at. Yeah.
I think they got to the content quickly. I couldn't tell.
But I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so.
All right, you heard it here first. Dave Jackson does not like the French or the Japanese peak cultures, so there it is. All right, thank you for coming in, you guys.
Hey, world.
Thank you.
This is Janae.
Hey, world.
Yes.
The whole world. I
world.
wish the whole world listens to this podcast.
I think they do.
So, Janae, we are at we're at a podcast conference.
We are.
And we're sitting in a bar.
Yep.
Late at night.
Yep.
All alone. There's nobody around for miles. It's romantic. We got little candles going.
Oh my gosh.
You're drunk.
Yes.
Yes.
Off water.
Off water. I'm just kidding. No one's. I don't think anyone's drunk tonight. Last night there was a few. But
oh my gosh! Really?
Tonight it's nice and calm.
Yeah.
It's been
really
a long
calm.
day. Did you learn a lot today in the podcast?
I learned so much.
What was your
so much
biggest takeaway? What are you leaving with today?
Oh my gosh! To try, just go out and try it.
So, and that's what a lot of people I've been podcasting a long time, and everyone who podcasts a long time, they say that to everybody. If you're thinking about podcasting, stop thinking about it.
Okay.
Make a podcast.
Okay.
And then you get better at it by doing it. It's like saying, I want to be a basketball player. And then you say, do you play basketball? Nope. Have you ever touched a basketball? No.
Gotcha.
And if you don't ever touch it, you don't get better at it. So you
Right.
have to get in there and do it. But we're here for some Fish in the News, right?
I can't wait to hear it.
And we're going to get back to talking about your podcast in a minute because Fish Nerds podcast listeners have a lot of different backgrounds and they love all kinds of podcasts. And so they're going to want to hear about what you're doing.
Awesome.
Check it out, right? And of course, if there's ever any link or anything, we'll put it up at Fish Nerds for you and help share it out with our dozens and dozens of listeners.
I'm sure it's more than dozens.
It's like 37. All right. So this is from opb.org, which I've never heard of before.
No, I've never heard of that either.
No, but the headline is Herman the Sturgeon survives stabbing, kidnapping, and now wildfires. Now, have you heard of a sturgeon?
No.
It's a fish.
Got it.
Do you fish?
I don't.
Okay.
I eat fish.
You eat fish. What's your
Is
favorite
that-
fish to eat?
I don't. My aunt says I say it wrong all the time. Is it salmon? Salmon? I don't.
Wow, you're that far from fish.
I am. I'm sorry. Whiting.
So salmon.
I like to eat salmon. I'm a salmonaire.
Salmon.
Yeah, it's salmon.
Okay, salmon.
It's just like Sam in
Salmon.
Salmon.
But there's an L in there, and it
Yes.
feels uncomfortable to not say it.
Well, imagine how you feel being eaten. If you think saying it is funny, imagine, how many salmon have died for you?
Touche.
I had fish tonight for dinner, and I shouldn't have. I regret it already. It was not great. What did you have for dinner tonight?
I had a salad. I had chicken, so
Good.
there's that.
And here's why you should have chicken at a place like this. I said to the server, "Where was this tuna fish caught?" You know what she said?
No.
She said, "I don't know."
Oh.
And whenever you hear that, you should order the chicken. If
Funny.
they don't know where the food's from,
We don't know where the chicken is from either, though.
we know chicken comes from a giant factory farm.
Oh,
We know
so that's
that.
fine.
Well, I don't know about that, but fish, but most fish are like tuna are wild caught.
Mm-hmm. Right, they should
it's
be.
the only wild fish we're still eating is fish. The only wild animal we eat from restaurants and from the supermarket is
Mhm.
fish. It's the last wild food, right?
Right.
So if you want to talk sustainability and healthy eating, if you're going to eat fish, you should know where it came from.
Okay.
I had it anyway. I broke my rule, and it wasn't great.
It wasn't? No, not in this fine establishment.
It's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place.
All right, so let's get back to Herman the sturgeon. Sturgeons are really old fish. They look like big old sharks, but they have big giant sucker mouth on the bottom.
Oh, I know what those are
pointy
then.
Noses.
Yeah. I've
really
seen them.
Huge.
Okay.
Or they can be huge. All right. So he survived a stabbing, a kidnapping, and now wildfire. Oh, and
Wait.
he's a fish.
A stabbing, a kidnapping, and a wildfire?
Well, let's hear
Bizarre.
the story. All right. The Eagle Creek fire has burned more than 30,000 acres in the Columbia River Gorge, torching trees and threatening homes. The fire forced the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife to evacuate 3 fish hatcheries in the gorge and to release thousands of small salmon, or salmon if you're from New York, into the Columbia River ahead of the schedule after ash and fire debris clogged the hatchery intakes. Does that make sense? Hatcheries on fire. You got all these fish. The only thing you could do is open the floodgates, let them out.
And let them go.
So good luck, fish. So
Bye,
everyone's
Herman.
having poached salmon.
Who named him? How do we know his name is Herman?
Well, so here's a funny fact about biologists. They think if a fish name rhymes, like Sammy the salmon,
Got it.
not rhymes, is alliterative, or rhymes like Herman the sturgeon, Herman the sturgeon, they didn't even quite rhyme. Not even a good rhyme. They think that people would be more edutained.
Got it.
To edutain.
Oh, those biologists.
Those crazy biologists. And pay better attention. And hey, they might be right. It made the news, right?
Okay, yeah, certainly.
All right. So anyway, he survived stabbing, kidnapping, and now a wildfire. Despite all that, Herman the sturgeon survived. Right now, Herman the sturgeon, who is a very large sturgeon, almost 11 feet long.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Well, that's a big freshwater
That is a
fish.
big fish.
Yeah, there's a picture of him if you want to see.
He's pretty long.
There'll be pictures up at fishnerds.com.
Oh, wow.
He looks like a sturgeon.
That great.
Or a sturgeon, if you're from New York. Right now, Herman the sturgeon is a very large sturgeon, almost 11 feet long. Herman is fine. Don't worry. It's okay.
Got it. Yeah.
Said Michelle Denny. He is spokesman for the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. For the unfamiliar, Herman is a star attraction at the Sturgeon Viewing Interpretive Center at the Bonneville Hatchery. Herman is 79 years old.
Wait, what?
79 years old and 500 pounds. Do you know how I tell old a fish is?
No, cut it?
No, you count the candles as birthday cake. You just count candles.
I'm done.
No, no. It depends on the fish. So you're actually right. With catfish, if you saw them in half, on their backbone there'll be growth rings like in a tree.
Like a tree. Oh wow, awesome.
Now, but also fish have scales, and on their
Right.
scales, the exact same rings appear.
Wow.
So seasonal growth rings, and so they can count the rings on the scale and age of fish.
89?
79. Don't exaggerate.
Sorry.
New Yorkers.
So sorry.
All right. People love Herman, especially kids. Denny, he said, he typically gets about 500,000 visitors a year. He should make a podcast.
Wow, really?
I know.
Those numbers.
The ODFW had to evacuate the hatcheries, and many people want to know, was Herman okay? Denny, he said, ash in the water can affect gills, stressing fish, and potentially causing respiratory problems.
Oh, wow.
But the water in Herman's viewing pond comes from a well and hasn't been impacted by the fire. The fire isn't Herman's first brush with death either.
Herman's a hero.
I can't deal with this story.
This is real. This is news.
This is insane.
You know, I know you've been hearing a lot about all kinds of other terrible news lately.
I heard about Nemo. That was devastating.
Oh, Nemo today. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Don't want to hear about Dora. And now Herman, like, boy.
No. Now, Herman was kidnapped from a viewing pond at
Oh my
Roaring River
gosh.
Hatchery in 1983, before you were born. I'm assuming.
No, you're wrong, but that's fine.
How old are you?
No, hide. Not. This is about Herman and his 79
I
years.
had you at 23. All right.
Yeah, 24, really.
Herman was kidnapped from. I said that already. Herman has been nursed back to health so many times. ODFW said his caretaker are on guard for any people who would seek to disturb him. Nowadays, Herman is kicking back and enjoying a good life at Benneville. Well, at least he will once these fires go away. Conditions at all three hatcheries affected by Eagle Creek fire improved Wednesday, though some trees are still burning near the hatcheries.
Lord.
The Cascade hatchery, the power is out, but an emergency generator is running the equipment to keep Herman going. So, and now ODFW is preparing for possible emergency evacuations of fish stocks and his trucks in the raceway space ready for the fish, including Herman if they need to. So they are ready to help him. So that's Herman.
I mean, if I was there, I'd try to help him as well.
Well, it's Herman.
Did we hear about stabbing, though?
You
I
know,
feel
it's
like
funny.
they didn't say anything about him getting stabbed.
I read the article here, and Herman was kidnapped from a viewing pond at Roaring River Hatchery in 1983, and I stopped there.
Got it.
Comma. I don't know who wrote this, but comma and then writing the word and after comma it doesn't work, right?
It's redundant, yeah, no.
And so someone should rewrite this. And a man once jumped into his pond and stabbed him with a knife.
That sounds awful.
Poor Herman.
Herman, I feel so bad for Herman.
Now, if Herman could tell stories, what would he say?
Mer.
I was going to say glub glub. I think you nailed it. So,
well, they have those mouths, like the downturned mouths, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it would be like, yeah.
Like a little back. All right, Janae, thank you so much.
That was an awesome story.
Yeah,
really.
and when you launch your podcast,
yes,
I would love it if you could let me know.
Yes.
And I will share your story with any fishy person who wants to hear about Janae. Do you want to tell your title of your podcast? Or do you want to keep it secret until we reveal it?
I don't mind telling. I'm sure I have to. Actually, at your suggestion, I'd have to do a little bit of work on my title by adding a byline, and I'm completely fine with that. But the title, the working title, is Views from a Cubicle.
Right. It's all about how to keep a aquarium fish alive while you're working in a cubicle. I'm so glad you came on the show today.
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
And that's Janae. And Janae and I met just about an hour ago.
We
and
did.
Within 5 minutes, we were crying and hugging.
We
so
were.
We were like best friends.
We were.
All right. Thanks,
Clay,
Janae.
Janae, that works,
It's
right?
perfect. We're besties.
Thank you.
So that's it. You've listened to a bunch of fish nerds when you should have been fishing. We would like to thank our families for supporting us when we podcast, go on fishing quests, and do all sorts of silly things that nerds do. Special thanks to Hugo for doing that segment for us on the Tartar. Big thanks to Podcast Mid-Atlantic and all the podcast nerds who joined us tonight. Special thanks to Nick Hudson-Swager of Diana's Bath Salts for our audio and our theme for the news. And until next time, follow the code of the fish nerds, spawn early and often, avoid free lunches with strings attached, and swim against the current every chance you get. By the way, if you stay tuned, I might throw in some audio I collected in the halls that I didn't know how to use in the podcast, but I just recorded it. And if you're offended by crassness, just skip it.
For a wrong area. No, if you'd like to take anything in life, we have found we're talking to people here on the scene here at the Holiday Inn. We are learning things from people that are coming in. I don't know what they're doing here, but they're here. And they have informed us that if you take really crappy beer and make it better in any way, you have vaginaized it. Vaginaized it.
Now, so their theory is that when you vaginaize something, it makes it better?
Yes.
Is there a process for this?
Yes, you take it and then you add some vagina-izing, and then it's better. So, like, if you take, like, one of those fish that are really nasty, like the bottom sucker dweller ones that are just really gross, and you want to make it, like, sparkly, like a mermaid, you vagina-ize it,
yeah.
and then it's a mermaid.
You missed it earlier. We were actually having a conversation about how do mermaids have sex. So,
They've been vagina-ized.
well, do they?
Yeah, everything's better when you vagina-ize it.
That's my
There's,
theory.
like, different levels. It's like in Pokemon, you can evolve. So, like, if you go from if you take one fish and you vagina-ize it, you get to, like, Little Mermaid, Disney mermaid, right? And
Well, I hear you.
obviously Disney's not, there's nothing sexual about that, so that's not going to happen. But then you vagina-ize that, and then it's like a mermaid that can make more mermaids because she's just that awesome. Or he. You can be a man that has vagina-eyes because you're just a better man.
I would agree with that. Now, the question is, so we asked this question earlier during Stump the Fish Nerds, and we asked the question, so
How do you vagina-ize something? You just become better.
I agree with that. You know, so when most bony fish, like a mermaid, when most fish do it,
Boner fish, just bony ones.
the bony fish, the female drops all her eggs, and then the male sperms all over it, right?
Oh, that's so gross. Why do you keep
what word would you use for sperming on eggs?
Making them vagina-ized.
So when mermaids have sex with other mermaids, does the female kind of get up and shake all the eggs out, and the male come and just shake all the vagina-ize the eggs? How's that work?
No. There's love. Like, there's this deep, loving feeling in
So
their
when
eyes.
two mermaids love each other very much. Is that where we're going?
Yes, that is exactly where we're going. When two mermaids love each other so much that their heart feels like it's going to break, that they just can't help it, then they come together, and it's a really sweet, special moment. And then there is, like, a live birth. Yeah, that's it. There's a live birth. There's no egg spewing vagina-ization. There's none of that.
Well, I'm so glad we had this talk. Thank you for bringing the new vajazzing word to us.
No, it's not vajazzing. Remember, that's like bedazzling of a vagina.
This is Dave Jackson. What's the question?
Does this come? I know there's like Simonize, which comes in like a can with like it comes with like a almost like a velvet spreading honor thinger. Can I get like a vagina eyes? Is that like a can, or is it more of a jar or a bottle, or how is it packaged?
Well, if you want to vajazzinize, then that comes in like a can or a bottle. You can just kind of sprinkle that out.
That was aerosol.
No. You don't want to hurt the fish. No, but vajazzinizing and vajazz fingers.
A noun we didn't need in this conversation.
It happened over there. I didn't make it up. Vajazz hands, not fingers.
She's had a lot of kids. So, thank you for listening to the Fish Nerds podcast.
Yeah.